Hello, YouTube and friends across the podcast space. I'm your boy John, and we're back with another episode of the Just No BS podcast. As always, I'm joined by my two co-hosts.
Good as Cal.
Good.
Man, we're starting off the new year a little rocky. It's okay. We'll get our flow back. We've had a nice long vacation. It's been busy. But yeah, no, we back at it here to talk some more bullshit and just be three black men trying to live life. So with that being said, anybody got any resolutions? If anything, I'll go first. Me personally, I'm trying to get some better time management going. Even with, going through the job hunting search as I am right now, time just seems to just slip by so fast, man. I blink and it'd be like 8 o'clock and I still got stuff to do. So like, I'm just trying to get my time management in order a little bit. So that's really kind of my main goal, trying to fit all the things I'm trying to do into a more balanced time here. Anybody else got any resolutions?
So mine was, I think I'm taking this year to really walk down some of my tougher challenges that I feel are kind of like important going into this next stage of my life. Like, just getting married, saving up to buy a house, things like that. So yeah, like time management as well. Trying to get better when it comes to my writing. Like I didn't know that writing these books that I've been trying to write would be so hard, honestly, because it's like the deeper that I go trying to write and finish one story, I get an idea for another one. And then it's like, oh, let me write this down and get this like out. And then perfectionism in me is like, let me at least get it to a point that I can come back and feel like some work is done on it. And then as you do more research, because I'm doing like fictional stuff. So as I do more research and things like that, learning more things, the more that I'm like, oh, this would be a good idea for another story. And it's like my backlog of writing is like super long.
I know how you feel because I've dabbled. Just because I wanted to write an anthology for a while now. So I've got some scattered thoughts and random notes here and there on my Google Drives as well. Have you tried and this is not a sponsorship, I wish, but there's a system called Tome Writing, TOME.
No.
It's basically like a system to help you organize your thoughts while you're writing stuff.
Okay.
I haven't tried it, but I think there's a free trial where you can kind of test it out, see how it works.
Okay. Tome writing.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'll send you the information on our personal chats. But I've definitely dabbled in using it before when I tried to organize some of my thoughts as well. So,
got you. And finally, I honestly want to like convert 15% of like 15 pounds rather of the fat that I have into like a lean muscle this year. Because I'm like not really, but slowly, surely creeping up on 250. And I'm like, no, I don't like that. I don't like that. We need to get this back down a manageable weight. Like living on the third floor, walking up and down these stairs shouldn't be a burden like it is. So
I know how you feel, man. I also got married recently, and man, I look back at some of those wedding pictures. I was like, geez, I need to lose some weight. I look good, but I'm just like, I need to drop some because man, some of them pictures, oof.
Yeah.
Understand on that one. Speaking of, when it comes to my resolutions, I'm trying to focus more on my physical and my financial health. So I am also trying to trim down. Um, as you know, John, at some point I used to be all the way up at 280. And kind of creeping up from there. And eventually I got myself down to like the 250s. And even now I've gotten myself down to around the 230s. And I was starting to creep into the 220s. But then I kind of started slacking off and I'm slowly seeing that scale go back up into the mid 230s. I'm like, nope, I got to go and do something about that. So Trying to get myself into a habit of working out more, at least getting a couple runs out, a week right after work, which can be tough sometimes, but I got to make sure that I'm trying to stay healthy as I get older. And the other thing, when it comes to financial health, before I used to invest a lot more, particularly when it was just before COVID and a bit afterwards. And I was doing a pretty good job on that. John, you know that I was really starting to make a bit of money, making some good calls there.
Yep.
But after I lost my job and then, was unemployed for a while, that really took me away from it. So I'm slowly trying to build back into that again.
Oh, I know that feeling too, man. I had some time like after the wedding. I sat down with one of my advisors for my 401k, cleaned up some stuff, consolidated some stuff. So I know exactly what you mean, bro. Because it was rough out here. Like I got stuff all over the place. So like I'm that's also something that's been on my mind as well.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man. Every day is a chance to keep working on stuff. So
Exactly.
But yeah, man.
And then, before anything else, though, Cal, another thing when it comes to writing, because I have that same issue of, hey, I'm starting to go and write, and then all of a sudden a new idea comes up. I was watching this video where they said that one way to kind of combat that is to actually embrace that new idea, but make sure to go and write it down somewhere else, whether on your computer if you have like any of the sticky notes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Go ahead and write out that the bones for that idea, and then just completely leave it alone until afterwards. It helps with that constant, hey, it's kind of nitpicking at you, in the back of your head.
Gotcha. Well,
I found that it kind of works, at least a little bit.
Nice. Yeah. Well, as y'all can see, we definitely got goals, and that's kind of part of life. You got to keep setting goals and trying to hit them. Sometimes you fall short, but it's okay. Just keep on pushing. That being said, we've already been 2 weeks, almost 3 into January as of the time we're recording this. So we just gotta hit some quick hitters over, the crazy 2.5 weeks we've already had for January. As crazy as that's been, brand new year, and we're already jumping into ridiculous. So first on my list here, real quick, gotta send some prayers out to LA. We're shooting this on Thursday of that week. Things are, what I hear, calming down, but just anyone who's lost, property, family member, anyone going through it, our prayers up for y'all. Stay safe. Anyone listening to this, try to donate to a good organization. I've been looking at a couple, see if I can send a few bucks. I know a couple people, luckily no one I know that lives out in that area has been affected, but I do know a couple people in the LA area. So again, prayers up, stay safe out there, and to anybody listening to this, help in any way you can. It could be sending some food, even $1. Send a prayer for a firefighter, especially ones that don't get paid. Just prayers up, y'all, and stay safe out there.
Especially those individuals who were incarcerated, who they have out there working the fires, which is still such a very, in my own, like we're gonna get into politics, obviously, but like in my own brain, that is some of the most Orwellian shit I've ever heard of in my life. I'll be very honest with y'all. Like, yeah, sure. Like, yes, you are doing a good service. I'm not speaking ill of the incarcerated individuals whatsoever. But the person, like the politician who is like, yes, we're going to send like people who are convicted of crimes in here without any formal true training for real, for real. We're going to send them in there essentially as cannon fodder, which is crazy to me. I don't know. I find that very, very dystopian in my brain. Obviously, always prayers to LA when it comes to that, and I wish the best for everybody out there. But that's just insane. I don't like it. It just doesn't sit right with me. I'll be honest with you. I'll be very honest.
It kind of feels like a Suicide Squad kind of situation there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like, it's one thing if and again, I don't know the ins and outs of California, so this could be the case. It don't sound like it, but it could be. I don't know the law. I'm gonna put my disclaimer that I am not a lawyer here. But it's one thing if you allow people to incarcerated folks to volunteer and let's say, hey, we got crazy stuff going outside. If you are on your best behavior and you volunteer to help these, our civil servants without causing no trouble, to that will knock off a couple years off whatever sentence or some knock off some time off your sentence. Okay, cool. You know what? This goes towards the whole, hey, we're supposed to be rehabilitating these people if they're helpful, give them some time back, etc. That sort of thing. Then you know what? Fine. They volunteered. They understood what the A, B, and C was, but they made an actual decision. Just making them go, hey, go work. It's too close to slavery to me. But
I mean, I'd even go as far as saying, even if you did let them know of what's at stake, like, oh, hey, we'll give you this if you go and do this, it still kind of feels like, okay, what are your other options? If you're going to be incarcerated for an extended period of time, then it doesn't feel like they have a choice in the matter other than, okay, either stay in jail for as long as you're going to be there, especially for people who may not have actually committed the crimes, or, it's a circumstantial kind of situation there, or you do this situation that could possibly kill you in the process. It still feels kind of like a gray area.
I agree. It's definitely not black or white, but at least for me, as long as they have a choice, like a real choice, not a choice like I'm air quoting for my audio listeners, but one of those, ultimatums really, if it's a real choice, then so be it, be helpful. But anything that sounds close to it's not really a choice. I'm not about it. Well, moving on to a slightly more ridiculous, but not a somber quick hitter here. It's official as of, what was it, Wednesday night? This man Drake is officially suing UMG and Kendrick Lamar over Not Like Us. It's an actual filed lawsuit. It's not a motion, like not one of those like pre-trial motions or whatever. Now it's official. This man is suing.
That's hilarious to me.
This is funny. Like it almost like y'all ever see the NWA movie?
Yeah.
It reminds me of that one part where like the Jewish guy was like, "I'm a sue da 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 da," and ironically he's Jewish. Like I'm not trying to bring parallels, but like it seems very parallelistic, and I'm just like, come on, Drake, get in the booth. At the very least, you'd be more respected if you tried to drop a song. But
I mean, he would have been in a better off position because we've said this before, and a lot of pundits, like actual hip hop journalists and pundits, have said this as well. To where it's like this whole thing could have been handled much better on his side if he actually had people who cared about him, number one. And number two, if he actually understood the culture that he was parroting. For real, for real. Because he could have he kind of shot himself in the knee with the last song of their back and forth with the Heart Part 6. If he would have not put that out and then actually put out like a good response and then just let it blow over, like let Kendrick get the Not Like Us, do the whole let the party die thing, let Kendrick just spin, let him do that. You just get quiet, go somewhere.
Take the L.
Yeah, just take the L, go sit down somewhere, disappear, make people miss you. If he would have came back out now, like at this point, and instead of dropping a lawsuit, he dropped like a fire ass album or something. You know what I'm saying? Like right in time for the new year, like the seasons are changing. This would have been a much better look for real, for real. Because then at least it would have been like, oh well, people could have been more so on the side, like, oh well, if Kendrick's still doing this, like Kendrick's the one dragging it. He's the one keeping it a thing still, blah, blah, blah. You would have still had to look at the Super Bowl in 24 days and counting, yes, but the narrative still wouldn't have been like, well, Drake's still a bitch, because that's what this is at this point. Like, and I'm not like you, J-Zo. I'm gonna call it what it is. This motherfucker is hanging on to his Jewish heritage by his gnarly fingers, trying to get people to sympathize with him. Period. Because even in that 83-page lawsuit that he put out to the public, he's indicting all of the black streamers and all the black reactors that reacted to it. No Life Shack, Zayas and Lou, RDC, Kai Cenat,
Sanat, yeah.
all of the black ones, all of the big black ones. But where's that for Aiden Ross? Aiden Ross and them are reacting to it. Where are all these white people? It is what it is. In the lawsuit itself, it was saying essentially Kendrick was putting out anti-Semitic music and da 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 da. Bro, stop this. Stop this. You weren't Jewish in the battle. You were running around here. Nigga, I said it. I know that you mad. Where's the... No. But yes, this will be very, very bad. And as this saga continues, it more so solidifies the fact that I will be telling my grandkids about what happened from April of last year until more than likely April of this coming year, because it's not going to stop.
Yeah, this man's going to get cooked for a year plus at this point.
Yeah,
like come on, man. Let's go back to the classic rap battle days. Y'all beef, y'all put some tracks out, someone wins, the other person disappears, then they come back with a couple songs that have nothing to do with the situation, everyone's happy. Or they lose their careers like Ja Rule. Either way, like let's have some definitiveness here. Come on, man.
Oh, my bad. Go ahead, David. Go ahead.
I was just going to go and say, yep, I'm going to tell my grandchildren when they ask, hey, Grandpa, what was the fourth Great Ninja War? I'm going to call it this.
Yeah. That's a fact. Because at this point, it's bad, and I'm a battle rap enthusiast, like super, super big battle rap enthusiast. And it's hilarious because if I thought anybody would have been able to handle this, like this from Kendrick, it would have been Drake in my mind. Because he was the person a decade plus ago. It was a large battle between Disaster, who's from, I forget where Disaster's from. I think he's from Canada, by way of Cali, and DNA, who's from New York. He was there and he put up money for the battle. He hosted the battle. He's been to a few battles, sponsored a few cards, even a couple of years ago. The last big card that rest in peace Pat Stay was on, who's a Canadian battle rap legend, till death do us part. Drake was there and sponsored it because it was like a big thing. Like he was doing advertisement for it, doing drops. He pulled up, gave champagne to everybody in the crowd. So like, I would think you would know when you get in a battle, all bets are off the table.
Unfortunately, all it showed was that Drake out here stealing from the culture because he just hopped on a wave again. So, hey man, we'll just see how this turns out. Given how normal trial stuff, this man was probably just throwing something to kind of water down to Not Like Us, but for the Super Bowl, but it's probably just going to strengthen the Super Bowl performance. So, I mean...
Oh, and one last note, Jason, because we were talking about Prayers for LA as well. And we will talk about the name that I came up with for you guys, for you weirdos. And I'm not going to break the surprise now, but these are the same people. Because when the LA fires were first starting, a bunch of Drake fans with like the owl in their stuff and OVO this, they were making fun of people in LA saying this is karma. Laughing at people burning alive because of a rap battle.
Yeah, that's pathetic.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Y'all are sick people, bro. Y'all are sick. Like, we got a name for y'all. Just wait on it. We got you.
Any final thoughts for going to the next quick hitter, Devin?
No, I'm ready.
All right. So we're going to take another hard pivot. So we had some news on, some real life news. We had some music news, and now we got some gaming news. Officially today, we're shooting this on Thursday the 16th. Officially, Nintendo dropped a first look trailer or teaser for the Switch 2. They're going to talk about it more in April, I believe, during their Nintendo Direct. But we got a first look at the Nintendo Switch 2. What y'all think? Did y'all see it?
I did. I have some thoughts on both sides of it.
I saw just a write up on it, so I'll let you run point there.
Yeah, go ahead, run point, David.
All right. So, on the pro side, I do like the sleek design to it. You know, I think it looks very nice, very clean. I appreciate it from an aesthetic standpoint. Uh, that said, one of my key issues that I have with it is where the controls actually connect. I don't know if you have seen some of the pictures and everything with how it's supposed to connect there, but there's kind of like this hard point that looks like it can easily snap. I know that there are going to be a lot of parents out there that are going to buy it for their kids, and I feel like that is going to be, you know, the biggest complaint hands down. Uh, People are already kind of rough with, you know, some of the Joy Cons now for the Switch. I feel like that was a terrible move, and I think Nintendo kind of knows that because they've been in the game for a while now.
I agree. To piggyback off that, I saw the same thing, and I thought about my niece having one of those. She's already gone through a Switch. My brother had to get her a second one. She's already gone through one. So, yeah, like I definitely feel that. I will say, from some of the stuff that we have seen that's kind of leaked or talked about, it looks like it's you know how like Apple products have that like magnetic snap onto it. It
Mhm.
seems like that's the same general technology they're using for it. Again, I don't have the full details. So it's supposed to kind of, instead of how it like you slide it and it clicks on the original Switch, it's supposed to be like a snap. So that may help, but I still agree it is not a very good look. It
Mhm.
is That's probably the weak point. I do agree with it. I noticed that too, and I was just like, I like it's like a half and half weak point. Without having hands-on touch, we don't know how like stable or consistent they are. We only can see it.
Mhm.
But I do like the fact that it's not a slide, but it's more of a click and pull. So it's like the rip away controllers from back in the day. Like because so many kids would break their controllers, the rip away was like the stopgap to saving controllers from getting ripped out of the console. So we'll see. Hopefully we'll
Mhm.
find out more in April. Um but yeah, that was something I noticed too.
So off of the first look from both of you two, because you guys are much more adept when it comes to Nintendo products. Like I know my wife, she has the Wii and then the Switch. She still has her N64. And I think that's about it. Um, do you think from the standpoint of Nintendo, do you think that it's like calculated negligence because they want kids to possibly break it so that their parents have to buy it again? Or do you think that it was like an oversight, seeing that essentially the larger and the growing demographic of gamers is considerably older than the generation previous?
So I feel like, and this is just me wanting to trust Nintendo, that it was more of an oversight than something that was planned to be the case. Uh, I do think that you did hit a good point that they are expecting that a lot of the systems are going to go to an older crowd, you know?
Mm.
So they might be a little bit more careful with the hardware, but I do feel that Nintendo also should realize that, yeah, they're also going to sell to a younger crowd as well, and they should keep that in mind when designing things. So,
Fair.
but again, it does come down to what John was saying there with they might have already taken care of that issue already. So,
Yeah, because again, it was just the first like teaser, so it's hard to say without any like tech demos or someone like Marquez Brownlee, for example, like someone who actually reviews tech to actually go through it and look at all the parts and let us know where the weak points actually are. We only have again, it's basically a slideshow almost. Um, so it's hard to say. Um, my actual concern, like I noticed that, but that wasn't my big concern. My big concern is, did Nintendo like, because it's the common um critique that most people generally have with like the Nintendo wave of products. What's the graphical quality like? Because all
mm,
these other handhelds have already shown, Steam Deck, Lenovo's hand series of games, etc. They've already shown that you can get a pretty high quality HD screen. We're talking like probably like 1440s plus,
Mm.
on a handheld. So like, what are we talking about spec wise? Like, I don't need it to be like 4K, but like standard HD games should look relatively good on it. That one snapshot they had of like the Mario 24 lane thing that everyone thinks the new Mario game is gonna have. That snapshot, I was like, oh, hold on, y'all took this on a picture and the quality looks pretty good. Y'all might have up-res this. They may have figured out the chip system and up-resed it and gave us some more RAM and stuff. So we'll see. That's kind of my thing. Did they up-res? Is this like a hardware upgrade, like a true hardware upgrade? That's kind of what I want to see out of it. Because if it's anything close to the Steam Deck, even if it's a slightly lower, because it's the ability to kind of Joy-Con switch, all the switchability of it. If it's even a slight step down from the Steam Deck, that thing's gonna do great. So
on that topic there, I know that when they were putting out the leaks and so on and so forth, a lot of them were saying that, hey, it's not going to perform as well as like the PS5 or the Xbox Series X. Of course, that's not what we're going to expect. We've never expected that from Nintendo when it comes to those big three. That said, from what they were saying about the Switch 2, it is going to be comparable to around the Steam Deck. So, you know what? I'm looking forward to it. I'm wondering how the battery is going to be as well. Because that's just a general issue for a lot of handhelds, is battery capacity.
That's true. Because if, let's say on medium settings, so like mid-tier lighting, like backlighting, if you could push out 6-8 hours, give or take, like continuous play on the handheld, probably solid. Again, if you can basically get to what the Steam Deck's got, but even if it's just a bit lower, because I know the Steam Deck on some of its higher settings, depending on the game, I've heard it can last anywhere between 6 to 8 hours. So I don't have one, so I've never actually seen it in action myself. But from what I've heard, if you can get anywhere close to that, again, just being able to pick it up, dock, switch, just that with all the general features it already has, hey, it should be solid, sell gangbusters. So,
one quick question though. What are your thoughts on the initial price? What do you think it's going to fall under?
I was just about to ask you that. I was about to be like, any guesses on the initial price? The original Switch was what? $290? What was the original Switch price?
I think it was around $299.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, $299.99. Yeah, so roughly $300 for the original Switch at launch. Honestly, given Nintendo's track record, especially when it comes to their consoles and portables, they always try to keep those relatively well priced so that people actually buy the games. I'm thinking if it stays within the $299 to $350, maybe $399 range, that's what I'm thinking as a first guess, but who knows?
I agree. I think my top guess was going to be capping out at 350 because I'm looking at it like, okay, Nintendo doesn't really have like sales on games for real. For real, Nintendo's a very hard stickler about like, bitch, it's our games and you're not getting it anywhere else, so you're gonna pay top dollar for it. So I was like, yeah, I think you're gonna cap out around 350, and then I don't know what they have planned. When it comes to that, like if they're gonna do some type of variation of, say, let's say like something like Game Pass, like how Xbox has, to where it's like a subscription.
The Nintendo, I forget what it's called, Direct Pass, or I know what you're talking about. They already have one, but yeah.
Yeah, like if it was strictly like on there, like on the new Switch, that's why I'm like, yeah, 350 would be like my top price, because then you have the rolling subscription on top of that. Like, yeah, they're gonna make their money like that, in my opinion.
Yeah, for me, I'm thinking anywhere from $299 to kind of keep it in line with the original Switch there, because you're right. They aren't necessarily known for their huge games where it's just like, oh, hey, you got to go and get this system or else. All the way up to, depending on the final specs and how things look, potentially going up to $499. Kind of pushing that line there, especially considering that Microsoft and Sony kind of went pretty high with their next gens as well compared to their previous systems. So, and it also depends on the supply that they put out.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's fair. Final question before we move on to our last kind of couple quick hitters here. So we saw it's basically they're not doing the Joy-Cons are full one color. It looks like they're outlined with the color. Do you think we get any cool colorways, any cool special editions? What y'all thinking?
Yeah, my guess would be I think they would seeing the positive reception that PS5 got when they were doing the anniversary of PlayStation thing where you could
Too
go
little, too late, but yeah.
yeah, but I'm simply saying, like, when you know how the market is, once you see somebody else or a competitor do something, like, more than likely, especially if you're in better standing with your own consumer base, you can easily just cherry pick it and get a better response because your fans actually rock with you more than what their fans did at that point in time when they did it. So
And with at least with the Joy-Cons from the last Switch, they had all types of different colors. Like they were dropping colors. Like it felt like every other year they were dropping colors. They had like what's that squidding game?
Splatoon.
Splatoon. Yeah, they were dropping like the Splatoon colors, the Animal Crossing colors. Like they dropped. So I expect them to have some fancy colors in the woodwork. Probably depending on what games they drop. And with a new Switch means we're probably going to see a new Zelda within like a year or two of it dropping. So
New Mario and a new Zelda.
New Mario, new Zelda. People are thinking they push back Metro Prime because of the Switch too. So who knows? All right. Time for my last hard pivot of our quick hitters. So this is where we get a teeny bit political here. So as I mentioned previously, today's the 16th. In 3 days, if someone doesn't buy TikTok, it is getting banned from the US. The clock is ticking. There are rumors that someone like Mr. Beast might want to buy it. Who knows? What's your thoughts? Do y'all even care?
that's not going to happen, in my opinion. Like the TikTok, the individuals over at TikTok were like, we're not doing that. Like, we're not selling. Period. Point blank. And I'll be honest with you, good for TikTok. I also find it extremely hilarious that yet again the U.S. government has showed the negatives of having old people in these long-standing positions who are extremely disconnected with reality. Because as soon as they were like putting their foot down, it was like, yeah, we're getting rid of TikTok, da 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 da. Like specifically at the start of this year, like, yeah, we were dead serious last year. Nana and Boo Boo, we're getting rid of it. And then the Red Note app from China, who's literally essentially like the Communist Party's app and everything else like that, for all intents and purposes. I'm being very shorthanded here, which is looks and kind of functions the same as TikTok, but it's almost exclusively for Chinese citizens.
Also made by the same company, ByteDance, yeah.
Yeah, there was like there is actively a grand migration over to that app, so much so that it's the number one app in the Apple Store and Google Play. And people are going over there. People have already started learning Mandarin, communicating on the app. You have Chinese people speaking with US citizens, essentially undoing billions of dollars worth of CIA and FBI counterintuitive re-education on both sides. People talking about, yeah, we've heard this propaganda in America about Chinese citizens. Is it true? The Chinese citizens are like, no, that's not true. We heard this about y'all. Is this true? No, it's not. So again, great job, y'all. Great job. You are facilitating international allyship strictly off of your own hubris. You're an idiot. You failed.
Now this is their whole plan the entire time.
Yeah,
I doubt it. That's too forward thinking. Bro, yeah. I was watching The Daily Show with Jon Stewart and I don't know if it was Jon Stewart on that particular episode because he only does Mondays now, but literally they were breaking it down to sign up for the whatever it's called, Red Dance or whatever.
Red Book, yeah.
Red Book. There's literally a basically read this screen, and it specifically says this is for the Chinese Communist Party. By agreeing to this, you're agreeing that the party can have your data. I'm sitting here like, congratulations, y'all completely failed at what you were supposedly trying to do.
I'm sorry, and it's the red note. Yes.
Red note.
Okay. And that's what the joke is, especially because I'm on the black side of all social media. But like, there are black people literally joking, like, you guys really expect me to turn on my native country and give over my data to a foreign entity and allow them to do whatever they want with my data, my likeness? Absolutely, I'm going to do that because there's data leaks. But it's like, when you look at it like an American citizen, every other week it's, oh, this bank has been hacked and has compromised the identity of this many people. Your social security number has been compromised because of this data leak. This data leak. Facebook just had to do a mass payout of people a couple of years ago because they were selling their data to people. I think it was like a ticket, like, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like Ticket Hub or some ticket buying application. They got in trouble because they were selling your data. You see what I'm saying? Elon Musk does it. That's why you can say something here, and then in 4 hours or so, you'll get on Twitter and it's a bunch of stuff. You see what I'm saying? Like, so no, yes. At least they're honest. Like, we're going to take your data and sell it. Over here in America, it's like, we would never do something like that. How dare you expect us to do exactly what we're going to freaking do with your data? Like, no.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, if they're willing to go and tell you right up front, yeah, we're going to go ahead and sell your data. It's like, okay, well, at least you were upfront with me. I might not like that, but it's better than any of the other companies that are going to lie about it to my face.
Facts. You know what's crazy? Like, all those companies now, like Incogni and Delete Me, that are just showing up to get rid of the data. It's like, congratulations. I feel like America did this because they're just trying to open up a wave. Like, someone was in the backseat of some politicians, like, yo, we need you all to let them sell data so that we can delete the data for a fee. Like, we are so unserious. And that also reminds me of how unserious black people can be sometimes. They're just like, look, we've done so much crap. We just be so unserious. Like, yeah, fuck it. Like, what else is new?
That's a fact.
Now, speaking of different companies going all kind of crazy ways and so on and so forth, I did want to kind of touch on Meta with their whole change where they're ending the fact checking. Yeah, when they announced that, I'm like, I'm sorry, wait, what? What's going on now? What are you guys' thoughts?
Par for the course.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, Zuckerberg saw that Elon did it and got away with it, so they're like, we're going to do it too. And that's pretty much what it is. These tech companies are just trading, like, they're just lobbing up each other, lobbing plays up to each other like the LeBron and D Wade. Like, I can't. It's dumb. Now we have to trust people that don't know what they're talking about to correct us on the things we're talking about. It's Twitter, but for Facebook. Which is why I'm slowly deleting my Twitter. I have it right now, but I'm probably gonna move to like Blue Sky or something, and I'm calling it wraps. I'm starting fresh because this is getting dumb.
Yeah, I downloaded Blue Sky. I have to go over there. I still haven't set up my stuff, but the reason I say it's par for the course, my thing is, I feel like sociologists and historians are going to have a field day with the past 10 years, like in retrospect, because someone like Meta doing it, understanding the part that they played in the first time that Trump got elected, they are essentially marketing to. And the fact that there's a phrase that essentially says twice a child, once a man, because you're a child when you're young, you become a man, and then you still depend on people almost like a child when you're older and your faculties start to break down. Seeing the impact that misinformation and disinformation had on the first time that Trump got elected, specifically on places like Facebook, places like Reddit, 4chan, things like that. And it was just misinformation just running rampant. That's how you had people falling down that rabbit hole of QAnon very heavily. And the people most heavily impacted, were people over the age of 18 all the way up to about the age of 65. Just on Facebook, reading regurgitated hate speech for real, and unchecked misinformation. Like, did we forget when Trump was telling people to inject bleach into their body to fight COVID, and how that got pushed? Like, that was first on Facebook. It got pushed so bad because his karmic cycle is hilarious, because he will put out some misinformation, it'll get picked up and then in the social media and put back to him, and he'll think that it's true, when in all actuality it's just an extended lie, bucko. You're just regurgitating your own lies at this point. But I find that hilarious, and I think historians are going to have a field day with this era that we're in. For
I agree, man. Especially since every major article I've read, just kind of breaking down, I don't know, the last few weeks, basically everyone's just calling Musk the shadow president because him, Trump, and all of Trumpy's people are circle jerking each other. Like, Vince McMahon's ex-wife or current wife is going to be our Secretary of Education.
Sounds a little DEI to me.
No, she was qualified. No, DEI. No, it's all y'all doing are just circle jerking each other, and they're all of his cabinet are just his people that paid him to run for president again. Like, they're just all of his contributors. Like, so this was my last hitter, but we're in for another shitty 4 years with no consequences. This man went to trial, got convicted, and then they said, we can't do nothing about it. You're free. Tell that to every black person that went and did something ridiculous. Like, all you got to do now to avoid consequences is become president. That's literally what the world just told us.
Or have enough money to buy a pardon, because there was a bunch of people who were victims. Well, not victims. They're not victims. Fuck them. Let me just say that.
Co-conspirators, yeah.
Co-conspirators, J6 people, January 6 people, and everything else like that. And these people were able to essentially wiggle out from under that. The people who had money were able to get out from under that very easily, might I add. A lot of the people that are still in prison and things like that, mind you, some of them, all of them deserve to be there. But like, the people who are still there are like people who are in there punching cops and doing wild stuff like that. Like, yeah, you assault an officer, bro, you're going to go down. You're going to go down. This is a police state that we live in. But it's like, you can really finagle your way about that if you have enough money. Why the hell did Trump pardon Kodak Black? What great contribution to society has Kodak Black done?
Unfortunately, he did it to convince the black people that all they care about is blackity black with a particular type of hat that I don't have. That's all they saw, and you got some of those votes. I mean, again, I'm not here to question how politically involved this person is, but Sexy Red thought Trump gave her money during the pandemic. That's all I have to say.
Yeah.
So there's, like, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but there's a certain group of us black people that all they think is, all right, that's all I care about. So Kodak free now. Trump's the good person. It's never that simple, y'all. He just wanted to get some quick points with black people, so he freed Kodak Black. He worked with Kanye. Like, it's all theater.
Yeah. Nasty work.
Yeah, so again, we're in for a shitty 4 years with no consequences. So with that terrible transition out the way, we're going to move on to our 3-body breakdown of the episode. So because of all the happenings throughout the last, like, basically month, I was having a conversation with a friend from a podcast, from another podcast that we listen to, and we were talking about the art versus the artist kind of thing. You know, does someone do terrible things? You know, is the art still worth, you know, supporting in any way? So this particular friend of mine, he's one of those people that if you do some effed up stuff, that's it. You're done. You're cut. I don't support you anymore. My kind of breakdown of it is that it should always be a bit of an individualized choice, because whether we're talking about a good story, so, you know, someone like J.K. Rowling being utterly ridiculous, and we're talking about music, again, we got someone like R. Kelly being utterly ridiculous. TV, or if I go back to music, we also have Chris Brown, but then we also have like TV with like Bill Cosby and Nobuhiro Watsuki.
Schneider.
Snyder, freaking I almost said J.J. Abrams, but that's not him. I'm thinking of Guardians of the Galaxy guy.
Oh,
Isn't that that's not J.J.
the guy who
Abrams?
plays
That's
the guy who plays Star Lord, right?
no. The guy who directed the
the
movies.
director.
Oh yeah.
It's not James Gunn.
No, James Gunn. It's James Gunn.
It's James Gunn. Okay.
Yeah, you know, and people like James Gunn. You know, when you think about people like that and the kind of art they've produced, should we be separating the artist from the art? I'll let Dev go first because when we talked about this for the episode, he had a really good kind of breakdown. So I'll let him take over from here and start breaking it down a little bit.
So, short answer, I do feel that they should be considered separate. I do feel that there are some forms of art that have actually benefited people as a whole. There are some stories that have come out that have taught lessons to people. For example, J.K. Rowling. A lot of people wouldn't be where they are right now without having read any of the book series for the Harry Potter series. There were a lot of lessons in regards to how you should treat other people, and discrimination and so on and so forth. That should still stand. It does serve a purpose. We can still go ahead and take a look at the art and still get those things. Now, there are some artists out there, for example, R. Kelly, where when you kind of look at some of the songs and some of the lyrics, it kind of almost leans into some of the things that he was accused of. Those are the ones where and convicted, yes. In which case, that is an area where it's like, okay, we shouldn't necessarily celebrate that. There was nothing that was necessarily gained from that art right there that we can't possibly put off to the side. That all said, I do feel that each person can really choose where they stand on that topic, but demonizing people for having different opinions on that, within reason, of course, is still terrible. I don't feel that people should go out of their way and say, oh, hey, if you listen or watch any of insert artists, work, then you are a terrible human being by proxy. That is just as bad, in my opinion.
All right, and I'll pick up the ball from here, and I agree. And my response was the same. And I had to quote myself so I didn't forget it. I said that it should be an individualized choice based on the facts and a little bit of heart, because there are just some things, especially when we're talking about art, that it puts us in a particular place and time that can either, for good or bad, it shapes who you are. Like for me, I will never listen to another R. Kelly song again. Now, mind you, when R. Kelly was popping, I was like, what, 10, 11, younger? Like, so just as a grown man now, hearing knowing what he's been convicted of and trying to listen to that music, knowing what he was doing to people of my age, and no, I can't. It makes me like flexibly gag in the inside. So it's like I cannot support that man in any way, shape, or form. Now, on the other hand, if I were to take someone like Nobuhiro Watsuki, for anyone who doesn't know, that is the creator, the mangaka or the manga artist, Rurouni Kenshin. He's also done other works like Buso Renkin. Those two particular mangas for me taught me so many lessons that made me basically the man that I am today, that they're like intrinsically part of me. So I won't flexibly support you anymore, but like I can't not rewatch or watch or those works are too intrinsically part of who I am and how I treat people. Like the main character is like the person it inspired me to be, someone filled with honor, compassion, and looking for his own like way of living life, even after a bunch of horrible things that character may have done to bring about a better age. So it's like that story is so intrinsically like connected to me. I can't drop it. I can't do it. But will I ever buy a new book from him? Hell no. But the new version of the anime they're doing, I'm probably going to watch it because one, I want to support the animators that are unfortunately forced to animate their show. But at the same time, that story still just connects with me so much. I'm just like, I don't know if I could drop this one. But my friend who kind of basically brought this topic for the episode here, he cut that off completely. He won't watch the new show. He refuses to have anything to do with the man. And fair is fair. So again, that's why I think it should just be, as long as you know the facts and you have a little bit of heart and can give that same compassion to someone who doesn't have the same viewpoint, I'm all good. What you got, Cal?
I vehemently disagree because, again, growing up how I grew up, there was like a verse um, from the Bible that I was always taught, like you will essentially know a tree by the fruit that it bears. So we're coming from the standpoint to where we don't get the art without the artist. And I think that's very important because we don't get this thing that we revere without this person and all their good, all their bad, all their bane, their disdain, and their glory. We need that because we don't get it without this person to actually channel it. Like it's not a laser, it's a flashlight because it's a grand idea that anyone can touch and possibly have some type of connection to, but there's a focusing agent that differentiates a flashlight from a laser, period. So my thing is, when we're coming for someone like R. Kelly, this man was predominantly making love and sex music. That's where we're going to start. He's not a Neil deGrasse Tyson. You see what I'm saying? He's not some astrophysicist somewhere or this grand archaeologist who's doing nothing. This thing is a very obvious Venn diagram. Sex and love. And we know what he was doing. He was doing both of those with children. And then you go back and listen to what he's singing about. There are allusions to it all throughout the art because he's the focusing agent. You see what I'm saying? So like, that's the fruit. He was the tree. So yes, like I get it, but you have the other side of it, like, well, not the other side of it, still going down that. You have the situation to where you have somebody like a Chris Brown who was a child. Let's never forget, he was a child when he came into the industry. A lot of individuals who study the mind, who study the effects of fame and celebrity on the brain is forever, well, not forever, in a state of constant growing until about the age of 25. However, there is a dynamic situation that happens once you start to gain a lot of money and a lot of notoriety. The brain stunts itself because the brain goes, I have done this to get to here, and this is the grand success that I've gotten. So if I just repeat this behavior, I can keep going. So it's a stunted development, arrested development, rather. That's there. So you have that. And as a child, oftentimes, what do you do as a child? You throw temper tantrums. You throw fits to get what you want. And he essentially was there as a grown man. He was throwing a fit. I'm not saying that it was right. I'm not saying that the young lady Rihanna involved was all the way in the right. That was a mutually abusive situation. However, post that, he has multiple rape charges, multiple assault charges on him, on men and women across the continents. Like, it's not an isolated, he's just in Virginia doing, it's in France, it's in Germany, it's in Australia, it's in allegedly. Again, as Jazo said, I'm not a lawyer. I just see what's reported. And you keep on going. You look at these people. Yes, we love late registration. Yes, we love graduation. Yes, we love dropout. Yes, we love, like, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Yes, we love. Yes, we love. Yes, we love. But there's a situation as to where, yes, not only did he get famous relatively young, boom, so that's a stunt. He also experienced PTSD heavily as he rapped about in all those projects with people dying. That's also a stunting. And then you have a situation as to where the most important person in your life died at the changing of your career. That's another stunting. The man hasn't been right since. We love him. I know my mom. My mom's from the south side of Chicago as well as my dad. She prays for this man every birthday that he has. It's shit like that. You see what I'm saying? Like, there are certain things as to where it's like, you can't change that. So that's why I'm like, nah, because I'm not going to be, before I go too deep, Miss Rowling, Miss J.K. Rowling, in her own words in the Harry Potter franchise, she essentially said, not every Slytherin is bad, but essentially all of the bad people came from Slytherin. So it's like, not all famous people are bad, but all the bad people are famous people. Like, when you look across the board, like, because it's a lot of power that comes with that, with money, with influence, with social cachet, with all of this stuff. Like, that's why I'm like, no, like, because you can't, in my brain, you can't differentiate it because the artist is the person connecting with you. So the spirit of the artist, whatever their stuff is, they're pouring it into their creative medium. And whether or not you realize it, in your subconsciousness, you are accepting that from the artist. So unless you're, go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
So I have a question for you then. So what about artists where earlier in their career they were pretty clear in their intents and so on and so forth. They were on the straight and narrow when they were doing all of their stuff, and then later down the line they end up doing something. Do you still hold that against their art before they've done anything wrong, or do you feel like that has some sort of effect, like that was already still there even then?
I'll be honest, that is a tough one because it depends on the level of infraction. When it comes to something like physical violence, like, oh, this person, like you're a random person, I'm a super famous guy. I'm at a party somewhere, something happens, I beat you to smithereens, beat you within half an inch of your life. Me as a person, understanding how psychology works, I'm instantly going to look into my past and be like, is he a violent person? Did he have outbursts where he did something close to this before? Like, I'm going to look like that. And then depending on what I find, that's what my decision. When it comes to sexual assault, when it comes to rape, when it comes to stuff like that, there are patterns in there from a very early age. People just don't pop up at 45 and start snatching children. You see what I'm saying? So like, I would look to see, again, I'm going to look at the tree to see where the fruit is coming from. So like, that's where I'm coming from with that. When it comes to the artist, when it comes to what they're putting out, when it comes to their character, because I care about that, because that's a subconscious thing. Because even when it comes to rap, you'll be surprised what your brain naturally connects to after listening to rap, like certain rap songs for a while, because you start to memorize the words. And then you could be surprised about what you remember, but you forgot that you remembered, because you'll say a line, it's like, wait, what the hell did he mean when he said that? But it's
Lil
like,
Wayne.
yeah, Lil Wayne, Biggie, 50 Cent, Big L. I grew up listening to all these people. So where they'll say something and you memorize it, and it's like, wait, why did he say that? What made you go with that flow? But that's me. Me personally, I can't do that. That's why even whatchamacallit was weird. Because we just talked about Kodak. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers was weird. I was one of those people that was like, that's kind of weird. Like, Kodak's on an album with Kendrick, and Kendrick's talking about trying to become a more healthier person and love his family and everything. And you have Kodak like doing poetry and ad-libbing. And it's like, Kodak's beat women up and assaulted women and stuff like that. Like, that's a very weird thing that's there. And I was like, I love this album, but I don't really want Kodak talking to me about bettering myself as a human being. Like, I don't rock with you, bro. I haven't bought an album from you in a very long time. So, but that's me.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe it's a bit, not at least for me, maybe it's a bit of naivety. Maybe it's that I want to maintain some semblance of hope for humanity, but like, again, I look at these situations. I try to be very individualized with these situations. Like I said, R. Kelly, that man's in the trash bin, across the ocean,
Yeah.
on fire, like never happening again.
Mhm.
Like, but then like as terrible and like yes, terrible and horrible as some of the statements that J.K. Rowling has said. I'm like, did you forget what you wrote in your own books? Like you said, she's pontificated so many of these characters as Slytherin as basically being evil. But when you actually read and like understand the whole series, several of the most evil characters in the books weren't Slytherin. Lockhart was a Ravenclaw. Dumbledore makes very questionable decisions. He's a Gryffindor. Like, it's just one of those things. And like one of the most like even-minded person in Slughorn was a Slytherin. He wasn't evil. He just had a very he had an ideal he lived towards, and that's what everything he did was for it. So like, how did you write this 7-part series where the foundation is that love protects all and like love like to love everyone and love is what conquers? Like that is the central theme of your 7 books to the point where your villain is one who was born out of no love. Like, how did you write this and then have such lack of love for people that you just don't understand? Like,
See, I
it's
feel
so
like
baffling, and that's why I'm like, I have the hope, but I don't know.
examples like that are why I feel that sometimes the art can grow beyond the artist and sometimes transcend the artist. Um, for example, and I think you kind of touched on him and everything, Nobuhiro, um, the one who created the Samurai X series. Um, his series itself is a great classic. Honestly, I think it was amazing work and it teaches a lot. Now, his crimes after the fact, I'm not going to go into any of those details, but he was found with, certain DVDs of a certain type that no one in their right mind would agree is okay to have. But none of that can be seen in his art, and his story writing. I feel like it was almost like a snapshot of like the good that could be found in him kind of coming out there. So I do feel that in some cases we can have that. I will say with R. Kelly, with his music, it kind of stood out, well before we found out anything. And I think that is a fine example of like, oh, hey, you can see with your example of, we can see the fruit coming from the tree right there. Uh, if anyone was paying any sort of attention, we should have seen a lot of that happening well before, it became a court case. And even when people were kind of questioning it, people still said, "Oh, but his music was really good, so we're just going to ignore it." So I think it's a case by case basis.
And
There.
I'll agree. That is a part that we can agree on. It is a heavily case by case basis. I'll be honest with you. But there are certain like moral lines that I don't cross for
Mhm.
myself to stay true to myself, so that I
I
can look
agree.
in the mirror and go to sleep as easily as I can at night because I don't sleep very well.
Mhm.
But knowing what I knew, because just how I was born, who I was born to, where and when I was born. Like there were whispers about this here in Atlanta, and I have family who's been down here in Atlanta for generations, and I also have family who, like I said, is in Chicago, and they've been in Chicago for generations. Um, and my family in Chicago was like, "Oh, he's been here doing this, wilding out, like with younger girls, not even just like, you know what I'm saying, like freaky parties with consenting adults, like we're all doing coke and da 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 da. Like no, like that McDonald's that they talked about in the trial, that was a couple of blocks from one of my family members. Like
Mhm.
they knew he was up there doing that, pulling up to high schools, and they're like, yeah, he's a sicko. But again, that came with, he was insulated because of legacy media. There were not podcasts with a couple of people from every different region who's picking up these numbers and making an impact on the culture. It is uh not 106 in Park, Hot 97, da 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 da, whoop de whoop, this radio station, and everything's payola. Everybody's going to the same parties. Everybody's indoctrinated into the same thing. The people who own these labels, own these radio stations, all went to the same universities, are probably frat brothers or sorority sisters who are protect the investment. So again, it's like, yes, that was going to last for as long as that lasted. But when you have this, there was a book that I read years ago where it was called The World is Flat. And that was as a result of essentially the technological age coming in and surging in, and people being allowed to access the internet and access different servers in different countries and everything else like that. Like the communication got streamlined. And this person was essentially saying, like, in a couple of years, there's not going to be any need for legacy media for because everybody's going to be able to do like peer-to-peer communication. And then CNN's insight is going to be no more credible or less credible than JZO's peer insight. If there's like a war in Georgia and JZO has me here, a couple of other people that I know here who we can talk to JZO, but CNN has to load up the travel bus, create the budget, make sure the security team's on the call, and then they send people like that. That means something. Lastly, where you said, JZO, you were essentially saying, did you even read the text because you came from the standpoint of love conquers all type thing?
I mean, that was what Harry Potter is basically founded on. I think that's a core theme of the books.
Absolutely.
So, like, which is,
and I think that she understood the text, but my rebuttal to that is love is easy in a homogenous society. There's no true challenge in loving what's familiar to you. So when you have this situation to where there's a change in the worldview, certain people having certain standpoints and platforms to speak from, and you have a bunch of people who you didn't really care for, but they didn't have enough power to really affect anything, get to a status, and you're like, I don't like that. That's different. And that's not what I meant by love conquers all. Like, I meant like white women loving white women, loving white men in a white space in Europe somewhere with a couple of token Negroes and Indians every now and again. Like, you don't have a black student consul or that. That's what I mean. Like it's very easy to love something that you can pinpoint relativity to. But as soon as it's different and you have to understand what you're looking at so that you can see this person as human and empathize with them, that's where it gets the rubber to the road. And she failed that test, respectfully. That's my opinion.
I wouldn't say she failed the text. What I would say is
the test, like loving,
test.
Love,
yeah. I mean, in that regard, I wouldn't even say she failed the test as in like she took it. It's more like you didn't give a damn. You just didn't show up to class. Like that's basically what it is. Like because again, I'm an avid Harry Potter reader. I've read the books multiple times. Like I've dissected them. Like everything's applicable. Like if you look at it, if you could take it to any other story today and they're all applicable. It's just, again, you just didn't care. Like you truly don't see them as people. Like that, like you said, she just didn't show up. Like,
so I would say that, I agree that she herself probably failed the test here. She didn't study for it. She didn't do anything here. That said, I see the art that she created. It's kind of like the child that she produced that decided it wanted to be better and probably helped to make other people be better as well. So that's why I also kind of see her art as transcending her as the artist.
You know what? I think Devin hit right in the head. You know what I thought of the moment he said that? Y'all saw Static Shock as a kid ever?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the episode when you find out that Virgil's friend Richie, the white boy, his dad is racist as hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. and then when it's the black people that helped him find his son and fix it, that's when he's just like, my son's better than me. Like, that's the first thing I thought of. And I'm like, that's a good wrap up, Devin. Like, I agree. Like, you're right. Maybe that's what from this conversation that we kind of have to keep in mind, that sometimes the artist is just too tied to the art, and it like taints it. It makes it poison. And sometimes the art is transcendent enough on its own that it teaches something valuable while leaving the artist down here, and it just overtakes them. Like, I'm pretty sure Shakespeare's got some skeletons in his closet, but every dang near 8th, 9th, 10th grader has to read them. So, like, who knows? Like,
Here's looking at Edgar Allan Poe.
that man was something. But yeah, like, sometimes the art just transcends the artist to the point where, like, it can stand on its own and teach and be valuable. And then sometimes the artist just taints it too much, where it's just down in hell, 5 million feet under, burning while we all dance on its grave. I don't know. But you know who can't have conversations like these? The people we're about to discuss in this next section. All right, so we have a reveal of a new name for people, and I'm just gonna let Caleb go ahead. Take it away, man.
This is a commercial, Jazo. So when you edit these for the short, I need some commercial music behind it, like some elevator music.
Now welcoming the.
Hey, you. Do you hate women in Marvel movies, in Star Wars movies, in Star Trek movies, in fiction, period, and in nonfiction? Do you feel like you've been overlooked because these women have become too westernized, too masculine because they have things like reproductive rights and a paycheck? Who do they think they are? Do you think they could live without us? Her body, her choice. How dare she? Next thing we know, it's gonna be some Afro-Latina running for president or something. If you feel like this affects you, and these so-called women, they're really females, can't live without us, come to my university. It's called Piss Pill University. Not only do we have political opinions that are piss, not only do we smell like piss, and not only do we make the dating pool, smell like piss, but we're just pissed off people. So welcome. Send your applications. We do have entrance exams, but you too, if you study hard enough, embarrass your mother enough, and neglect enough beautiful women who care about you to go chase off some harlots because you feel like you have enough money, you too can be an alumni or an alumnus of Piss Pill University. That's it. That's the commercial. That's what y'all are. Y'all the piss pillars. I'm sick of it. Finally got a word, Jazo and Devin. That's my turn.
You know,
Go ahead.
first of all, that is hilarious. I'm definitely gonna have to find a way to cut that. Oh man, I'm gonna cut that and make like the intro to our YouTube page. Once I get it like fully organized, that's gonna be like the introduction. Oh man, that's gonna be great. It's just gonna see me and Devin holding back our laughter in the corner. Oh man, now that's a good one.
I'm mad that you started that off like the average college commercial. The whole, you're sitting on your couch, watching TV, it feels passing you by. And I'm like, did he just hit me with the commercial?
It's like I am sitting on my ass. We're like 7 years old.
Man, we're 7 years old. We didn't invest in a house. Like
man.
We didn't buy no Amazon stock in 2001 when we were 3. Like,
we didn't buy any Bitcoin. Like, come on. Man, I was sitting on the couch. Life was passing me by.
Man,
I was right.
I need to go to IDDC college. Nah. So, welcome to the introduction. Our anti-women, anti-fun, anti-whatever term is going to be called Piss Pill, y'all. Well, we're going to cut that commercial. It'll be the commercial for our YouTube page whenever I get that all squared away. Man, I can't stop tearing out because that was too funny.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Oh.
Well played.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Whew. Oh man, I'm gonna be out here looking like I just had a had a big old a big old ounce of weed or something, bro. Like I can't. Oh, my eyes, they hurt. Oh my god. Ooh.
Man, yeah, because I was looking at it, like a lot of this stuff, and like you said, another 4 years without consequences. Like I've been looking into this because it's weird because my timeline is as schizophrenic as I am when it comes to like liking things and watching things and just researching things. And it's such a weird thing because it'll have a situation as to where it talks about like women's rights and stuff like that. Like I like to pay attention to that because again, I'm not a woman and I don't know certain things, and I also don't know about things that I don't know as well, period, point blank. So I'm always looking, even when it goes to something like immigrants' rights and like obviously immigrant women's rights that like overlap, and it's like Jesus, this is really bad. And then looking into things like the passport bros, which I've been looking into. That's another thing historians and sociologists are going to have a freaking field day with in a couple of years. Um, the rise of crystal fascism in America, which is again like Jesus, and all of these things. What is it? Neo Nazis, period, and Nazi sympathizers, period, here in America. And it's like a lot of these things all overlap with these individuals. And it's wild to me. And it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, I don't know. Like if you for instance, we here on the podcast, we all play D&D. It's like you making a barbarian, and then the only stats that you cap out are intelligence and dexterity. And you have a 4 in strength. And you're like, why isn't the game working for me? Why is the game so hard? Where did you focus your efforts at? Versus the role you were supposed to play. Like, you did this. The game is going to be terrible for you. Like, I don't understand. Like, hating people, hating being inclusive, hating just wanting to learn and empathize with people, but feel like trying to feel like you're still supposed to be the hero in this story somehow. Like, bro, you're not. You're cancer. You're the worst part of humanity.
You're a piss bill.
You're a piss man.
It works.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah, so speaking of piss pills, this is
Never
gonna
thought
be
I'd hear that.
beautiful. This is gonna be beautiful for transitions. I love it. But yeah, speaking of piss pills, you know, I've been wondering, like, people keep talking about getting tired of franchises and whatnot. I'm starting to wonder, like, are people actually getting tired of this stuff, or is it like piss pills got too much vocal power? Like, people talking about how every Marvel movie sucks, but like, I was watching the Birdman video and he broke it down. Like, there's only been one Marvel movie that didn't make money. One. And it's not Thor the Dark World. What are we talking about? It just so happens to be the one that features 3 women. Like, is that piss pill, or was the movie just really that bad? I have yet to get a chance to see it. I've been meaning to. I'm so behind, but like,
No, I think that I truly, because I watched that video as well and I thought it was hilarious. But there truly is a thing with superhero fatigue. Yes, period. It is. Like it happens post any large scale war that happens in America. You can go and look at it as well. Like in the early 2000s, you had the War on Terror. So a lot of the villains in like war movies and things like that were like Middle Eastern people. Some of them actually cared to give them a country and be descriptive about religious views and da 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 da. Sometimes they were just ambiguously Middle Eastern. And then you see like the surge of attendance in those movies went down after like the war in Iraq, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, so on and so forth. And then you have the situation to where it's like a little bit after that, because people started to make fun of that as well, like where the weapons of mass destruction, like the weapons of mass destruction are as visible as a clitoris is to a virgin. Like that's like those types of jokes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm the vulgar one on the podcast. I'm sorry, y'all. That's me. I'm
Wild.
But you have that as well, where it's like later on after that, you still have people who are still doing like, well, it's still somewhere in the Middle East is where our problems are. And then you start to slowly see it shift to like, okay, now we're gearing up for World War IV, like around like 2012-ish, 2013, like around there, early 2010s, 20 teens, and it starts to shift there, like World War IV is coming, and then you randomly will get like, oh, it's a Russian thing somewhere over here, but we still have some Middle Eastern da 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 da, a la like the ending part of the Bourne franchise, like the Jason Bourne franchise, the 007 reboots, things like that. Like it's a slow transition. And then anytime we're like close to war or we have like an overt enemy in Hollywood, the antagonist typically does echo the nationality of whoever we're currently in real life about to have war with or at tension with. And then, but there's like an ebb and flow, but there is a fatigue process that happens with that. With fiction, like straight fiction, there is an issue with that because you still have the same concept that has you anchored down with it has to be a superhero. It has to be. Like it has to be based off of a Captain America, an Iron Man, a Thor, a Spider-Man, a da 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 da. Now, the thing that makes the movie good, oftentimes people don't like to admit it, is the villain, the other side of that, the imminent threat, the ideological differences that are posed between the protagonist and the antagonist. Where a lot of the superhero movies fall short is giving us like an imminent threat, like make us feel like this person's in danger or something like that. But it's very hard to really express that, number one, when you don't have the best writers. And I'm not one of these people who anti D, like it's not that. It's some of these people are just shit writers, for real, for real. They are. They are. Some of them are. But then you have the other side of it as to where it's like, we still want something to adapt with, but we still need to feel the danger. And a lot of that isn't as palpable in something PG-13 and under. For real, for real. That's why there was a shock and awe that came with seeing The Boys for the first time, seeing Invincible for the first time, seeing what's the joint with the comedian with Rorschach? Dang, I can't remember.
No, I know what you're talking about. It's the one, technically, spoiler alert, technically the bad guy wins.
Yeah, Ozymandias. Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah,
Dr. Manhattan.
I can't. Why can't I remember the name?
I know.
I keep wanting to say.
He does that. Dang, what is that?
Watchmen.
The Watchmen.
The Watchmen. The Watchmen.
Yeah.
There's like
that was gonna bother me.
Yeah, because you see how I'm naming multiple characters and I couldn't remember. But like, yeah, The Watchmen, like seeing the movie for the first time and being like, whoa, like this is imminent danger. People are dying, and it's gritty, and it makes you go like, what's like, are they actually going to make it out? For real, for real. And I think that's the piss pillars are a part of it because they're just loud with nothing to do. And per usual, just like they do in their sex life, they do a lot of shots, but nothing really lands.
Damn.
But they just keep trying, and it's like that. I guess effort is rewarded, but you're not really getting anywhere. But in all actuality, on the other side, it's like the stories aren't gripping, aren't captivating enough, or different enough to make people who are sitting on the fence care enough to go to war with the piss pillars for real. And that's just my opinion. That's my read on it.
You know, as I think about what you said, I kind of, when you look at some of the biggest superhero movies, we'll just shoot the last 10 years or the lifespan of the MCU. Let's just go from that long. when you think about the stories, for most part, most of the best MCU movies, like we're talking the creme de la creme, where it had some kind of capture on the social zeitgeist, but had a critique or actual, essentially villain or antagonist to question that very same zeitgeist. Because for the longest time, everyone talked about the MCU had crappy villains, but then we got bangers for a while between Thanos, Killmonger, Zemo from Civil War. Like,
Mm.
that was one of my favorite villains, and that man didn't throw a single punch. Like,
Yeah,
They need to.
they're all mental attacks more so than anything else.
yeah. So like, I think you do have a point where it's like some of these movies with the fatigue aren't really telling a gripping story. Hell, one of my favorite MCU movies that people said was mid, but honestly, I thought it was one of the best movies that came out and was made during the pandemic was Shang-Chi. I love that movie. I don't care what anyone says. That was an A+ movie.
That was.
And at the forefront of it, it was basically just a father-son clashing heads story. Like, it's not a, like, yes, we got punches, we got cool kung fu, we got kung fu magic, but like, at the end of the day, it was a story about a effed up family trying to fix their own sins. Like, it actually tells, something a little more deeper than, I don't know, pick another movie. Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Mm.
I attest that movie. Like, nothing people can say will get me to like the Snyderverse. Like, for me, there was no heart to any of that other than I want to see strong people be strong and fight, which has its place. Don't get me wrong, but not with these iconic characters that usually have greater meaning than of their own character. So I'm never gonna be like, a lot of them piss pillars love those movies. I am not on the Snyder train at all. And I used to, like, when I first saw Man of Steel, I loved it. But then the more I saw and watched it, I'm just like, I don't know this. Outside of Henry Cavill playing the role as best he could, I got nothing for y'all here. Which gives me hope for the new one. It looks like this new one might have some of that mystique back,
Mm.
Some of those bigger messages rather than just I'm stronger, punch, punch, kick, boom, explosion.
Yeah, I mean my favorite ones, because outside of like the Christopher Nolan Batman films, because I like seeing those when I saw those were very important. Um, but a lot of that was dope for its own reason for me. Like, obviously I feel weird because it's like I see obviously the piss pillars have like this weird infatuation and become infantilized by someone like Joker, like this whole disestablishment thing. Um, but my thing was I loved it because it Joker always puts up a mirror to Batman. And it's like you think that you're a little bit better than the police or whatever the case may be. And it's like really you're just, and Batman has said this in other like comics, movies, and things like that, to where it's like you're really just one bad day away from being me. That's
Mm.
it. Just one thing that one day, that one 24-hour stretch to where this shit just goes wildly bad for you. Like, because you see that in like the alternate versions of Batman, where his dad has to become Batman because they kill Bruce in the alley. And his dad is Batman and his mom is the Joker in that universe. Like, it's just you're one just away. Um, so like, but in that past 10-year gap, one of the two of my favorites were obviously the first Black Panther, um, because of what was said there. And this is also why I don't debate with piss pillars or weirdo white people about what that movie meant and what the subtext was of that movie. Um, because it's like me having to explain why we should have this discussion is like a graduate studies class already, because you have to understand like the relationships between Africans and African Americans, and then you would have to put it in a fictional world as to where there is a country in Africa that hasn't been colonized, so their cultural outlook on things, like, it's a but like, again, seeing that being a Tupac fan was like watching a Tupac movie, because Tupac is, you know what I'm saying, he is T'Challa and he is Killmonger, and it just depends on the song that you play, because you can get the, like, yeah, we love each other, blah 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 blah, black people unite, da 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 da, but black people first unite, then we can unite everybody and unite the world. And then the other side is, fuck the police, we're burning this shit down, I'm shooting everybody, da 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 da. It's like, okay, cool, that to the side. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse movie was another one of my, like, favorite things. Seeing a man see his decisions in all the which ways they could pan out, and in every single reality he does not get what he wants the most, is fire to me. I thought that was amazing. And I thought that would be like a beacon symbol for the piss peelers to realize, hey, you may not get what you want at the end of this road. You need to make some accommodations. But again, they thought it was mid, thought it was ass. They didn't like it. I don't understand it. I thought it was amazing. And then at the end of the movie, literally at the very end, he starts his journey down being the dark version of Doctor Strange with the eye popping out at the end. And it's like, be careful the lengths that you go to seek power, because absolute power corrupts absolutely. And again, right over that, like, just clear over the heads. It's like, okay, cool, whatever. But those are my two.
Thoughts, Devin?
So I'm thinking back, particularly over the Marvel movies. I do feel that yes, there is a little bit of uh, people are starting to get a little tired of all of the Marvel movies. There's not a lot of a break in between them. So eventually, people are going to feel like, oh, hey, I've kind of seen this already, so on and so forth. Uh, that said, there was one movie, and John, I've talked to you about this before, that I just was not a fan of, and that was The Eternals. The main reason for that is because I think that one was a prime opportunity where they could have used that as like a TV series. They introduced so many different characters that have so much backstory that goes into thousands of years, and they squished that all into one movie and tried to go and say, oh, hey, care about these characters, when the villain is just some kind of or antagonist, I should say, in this case, because it wasn't really a villain. It's something that's kind of intangible, so you should care about these characters and not give you time to care about them at all. I feel like, while yes, it did make its money, I think that it was not executed in a way that optimized what they were trying to do with that story. And I think that that was kind of in my opinion, the tipping point where it's like, okay, it feels like you're just kind of pushing these movies out instead of really spending the time that you should have. I think Shang-Chi was like one of the last ones where I feel like they really put in a lot of effort into it. After that, it was kind of okay, well, what are we doing?
Shang-Chi and Spider-Man, because those are the same phase. But yeah.
Yes.
Like, and this is, I have to bring up the Marvel movie phases, because a lot of these piss pillars, a lot of these piss pillars like to blame, I think it's phase 4, the ones that basically all popped up during the pandemic. So let's see. Phase 4, we have, okay, so that's Black Widow, Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home, Doctor Strange, Thor: Love and Thunder, and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. That's all phase 4. Now, strangely, and not as strangely, ironically enough, these all happened during the pandemic. So there's already a lot of asterisks with a lot of these movies that I think gives them a slight pass. Like, pretty much any movie made during the pandemic was screwed one way or another just because of stuff no one can control. So, I mean, let's just take that, put it to the side. All right, cool. We got that disclaimer out the way. Now, let's look at the central themes of all these movies. Black Widow, I will agree. That movie came out way too late. That should have been like a whole phase beforehand. But that
Mhm.
movie was actually really good. Like that had some of the best fighting choreography I had seen in a Marvel movie since before Shang-Chi. Like, because that came out before Shang-Chi. I thought that had some of the best fight choreography, period. And then Shang-Chi came out, and I was like, okay, y'all got this. Y'all just basically hired Jackie Chan's crew and said, here, take Marvel, make us a movie. That's basically what they did. So I was like, all right, I don't know what y'all piss pills are talking about. This movie's great. So that's Black Widow and Shang-Chi. Put those to the side. Those are unjustly hated. While Black Widow's kind of it's kind of like the end of her journey. They at least gave Scarlett Johansson a proper farewell. The movie came out probably a whole phase late. That probably should have came out with Captain Marvel right before Infinity War. Like that movie should have came out a while ago. Like that movie's just mistimed. So, like Devin said, they probably just popped that movie out because they wanted to give her a farewell, and that was kind of like her last hurrah. Eternals, yeah, that one's a mixed bag. Too many themes. There's no like one story to really hold on to, which is probably its biggest weakness, you know. The only real conclusion is that one dude went into the sun and blew himself up. Like everything else just kind of got thrown on its head, and we still have no conclusions. We'll probably find out more with Captain America: Brave New World that comes out this year. We'll find out a little more about that. I hope. We're just kind of teetering. Spider-Man: No Way Home. If someone says that's a terrible movie, you don't have eyes, you don't have ears. Go sit in the corner. You're a piss pill. I don't. That is literally the iconic Spider-Man beginning story. It reset Spider-Man, the MCU Spider-Man, and gave him the traditional "with great power comes great responsibility" story. If you can't see that, go sit in the corner. You're a dumbass. Just I got nothing for you.
See, mentally, I kind of moved that movie before the Eternals, so that's why when I said like, "Oh, hey," it kind of fell apart after the Eternals, I didn't even think about that.
That's why I have to bring it up. This is why I've had to ask the question. I feel like these piss pillars have just taken the reins with these conversations and skewed everything to the point where we forgot actually what happened. So I'm going in order. Black Widow was July 9th, 2021. Shang-Chi was September 3rd, 2021. Eternals was November 2021. Spider-Man was in December 2021. Just with that alone, I will say that was probably too many movies back to back, which is something the CEO Bob Iger said that they're going to do. They're going back. They're slowing down the pace of these movies, which is probably a good thing. Because we had 4 movies in like 5 months. Y'all are tripping. But yeah, then after that, and you can already start to see some of that influence because Doctor Strange, after Spider-Man No Way Home in 2021, Doctor Strange comes out in May 6th, 2022. That's like 6 months later. So you can tell like they started like, okay, we might need to slow down with some of these movies. But like we've already discussed, Doctor Strange was great. And what I hate that people don't ever talk about that movie is the fact that we have 2 characters in Doctor Strange and in Black Widow dealing with grief in 2 opposite ways and coming to 2 different conclusions. Like that completely went over everyone's heads. I'm like, this is a great analogy for dealing with grief. One person tried to do everything wrong to try to fix their grief, while one person who did a wrong thing for a right reason, kind of the joke she says in the movie, he does it again, and we don't know what the consequences are, but he's going to have to deal with that consequence eventually, whenever we get to that next movie. But like, it's literally a movie about dealing with trauma, grief, and the consequences of your own actions, literally. And that just right over everyone's heads, just straight back.
And I think when it came to that, because I was watching people talk about that. When it came to essentially like Scarlet Witch's whole situation, her standpoint, her opinion, and where she was coming from, and they were like making fun of it, like, yeah, this was a dumbass way to go about trying to get what you desired. Don't get me wrong. Yes, that was probably not the best way to go about resolving your grief. But that's the thing about grief. Typically, people don't make the best decisions that they can make when they're grieving. And it's like, so again, even in the critique of it, although it was a nice critique, you still miss the crux of like the villain in or the perceived villain in the joint, because it's like, bro, we just saw somebody kill a CEO because one of their people got denied coverage. You see what I'm saying? Imagine losing the love of your life and your children, and everybody else gets to move on and just live their life, and then you're left to just deal with it until the next existential threat comes into the universe, and you have to team up with everybody who kind of left you by yourself, like that. Yeah, that's not gonna. I don't know. I don't understand why. I do understand why. It's a lack of media comprehension that's
Media
happening.
literacy, yeah.
Mm.
And the thing is, if anyone's actually critiquing these things properly, you already said it, Caleb. Absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
The Darkhold, she went through her character arc in WandaVision. Even if you didn't see that, you didn't need to see it. But she had the Darkhold, which essentially was absolute power, and it corrupted her absolutely through her own grief. So imagine giving someone who is grieving and struggling with their own life issues the power to functionally do whatever they can, or not can, do whatever they want to change that issue. A la such and such unfortunately getting shot, and killed. Luigi Mangione, who's probably grieving in his own man, had his own manifesto, whatever, took power into his own hands and acted on that power. That movie is literally the same analogy. And straight back over these piss pillars' heads. Again, my whole point with some of these conversations is that I get it. If you don't like the movie for a certain reason, like you thought the CGI was bad, like Doctor Strange did not have great CGI. There were points in that movie I'm like, that eye looks stupid. I get it.
Yeah.
That is a literal a literal critique on the creation of a movie that probably needed some work in the lab. Like, that is a fair critique. But when you start critiquing how characters act without actually having the literacy to break down your point other than it was mid, we're not having a conversation. You're being a piss pillar. You don't care. You're not actually caring, and you're just trying to start up an argument because I am man need to be strong and brave or something. Like, what are we talking about here? These are real situations. I just think too many of these conversations have blown the other way, and we're not having actual literacy on breaking down some of these stories. Hell, and then to wrap up Phase 4, we had Thor: Love and Thunder and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Now, Thor: Love and Thunder, I will agree, the biggest critique is probably fair that they had too many jokes in places that probably didn't need jokes. But at the same time, we're going back to a character who is dealing with grief and how they're trying to overcome grief. Nothing is ever that simple when you're trying to deal with grief. And then you get another pile on at the end when Jane essentially dies from cancer, and he has to continue dealing with that. Like, that man has not had a break to actually grieve any of his losses since Endgame. Like, no one is 100% when you're grieving, and grief just strikes you whenever it can. Like, you could be going about your day, you see something that reminds you of a cousin who may have passed, and you're all more thick as thieves. It could be something innocuous, and then you're back down that well, and you have to claw your way back up. And sometimes a corny joke or a ridiculous outburst is just natural. Like, I get it. Some of the execution of Thor: Love and Thunder wasn't the best. I'm not ever going to say it was, because there were moments where I'm like, okay, we didn't need this here. But it actually fundamentally makes sense when you think about someone who's going through grief and trying to regain love and help someone. It's trying to avoid losing someone yet again. So it's like, the analogy of the movie was great. I just wish parts of the execution were better. And to all you piss pillars out there, movies can have multiple tones. This is nothing new. This is actually a core tenet of basic cinema. Read a fucking
What?
book.
Yeah, I agree there. I just that's why I feel away, because some of the critiques from that side I agree with on like a structural and storytelling basis. Once we start to get into like like you said, calling things mid or just being chauvinistic, misogynistic, xenophobic, so on and so forth. Like that's where it's kind of like, you're losing me. And yes, they can have multiple themes and multiple different things happening at the same time. Obviously, in my opinion, because I was like, I didn't like it for real, because it was jarring storytelling when there could have been much more parallels than shifts. Because both the protagonist and the antagonist were actively dealing with grief. Thor's grief has been like for fucking 6 movies at this point. Like he lost his dad, lost his mom, lost his brother, lost his love interest, lost like essentially his people, like half of his people. Like yeah, and then Christian Bale's character, like you're dealing with a man who is like essentially a religious zealot who put all of his faith and trust into his God just for his child to die as he's praying to the God. He now gets an audience with the gods, and his God is laughing at him, essentially saying, "We will get more servants." And he's like, "Your religion is dying because you don't serve your people." Like you can do this. You can show different things, but it just seemed like Christian Bale was acting in a different movie than everybody else at times. And it wasn't enough connective tissue for the final battle to mean anything beyond old girl's death for me personally. Because it was just very two different stories, in my opinion, that you just put together. And the CGI was shit. I'll be honest with you. The CGI was shit. Like it was bad at times.
What's crazy is it was only bad. It was bad in a lot of places, but one of the places where it wasn't was that black and white zone. Did we lose Devin?
Nope, my camera just decided it wanted to tip over for some reason. Give me 2 seconds.
New Year technical difficulties. There's nothing bad about it. But yeah, no, like what I was saying though, is that like I agree. Like parts like that movie just wasn't fully cohesive enough in spots. Like I still enjoy it. I think it's a great movie. I would give it I gave it a B- because it did a lot of things great, but there were a lot of flaws with it. But it's not like I'm not gonna call it mid. It was an okay movie. My thing to me was that again, like with the CGI, yeah, the black and white zone was fantastic.
I like
everything else was shaky.
Like the black and white. And I didn't like I forget the director's name, the fact that he essentially was like, I'm not reading the text.
Taika Waititi, yeah.
Yeah, and because I found out about the God Butcher through Comics Explained. Because my dad had a lot of comics and things like that, but I didn't get to read them because I was a kid. Like he literally had I'm 6'1". Even now to this day, he used to have a box stacked up to like right here, like a moving box of comics that were just like decades of him just collecting comics. And like again, I couldn't go through and read all of them, but I remember hearing the name, and it was like when I saw that that's who Christian Bale was going to be, I was like, oh, they casted a very dark actor to do that. And it was like, yeah, I wonder how that's going to actually tie in with the tone of Marvel. Because the tone pretty much of Marvel, even when you're dealing with like a sociopathic genocidal maniac like Deadpool, like it's still a bunch of jokes in there. Like you're forgetting he's killing fathers. Like he's killing fathers, sons, uncles, cousins, shooting them in the head, doing trick shots. Like he started off the last movie desecrating a corpse. Like a loved film character. He's digging up the corpse and using his bones as weapons. It's like, this is dark as hell.
Yeah.
But again, like just tonally, it shifts different.
Yeah, like I said, Thor: Love and Thunder has its own problems, but I think it just stuck between that and Multiverse of Madness. He just stuck the idea of grief well. And then, Phase 4 ends with Black Panther. Again, another movie about losing your family and dealing with the grief and having to rise above it. Now, I instantly knock 75 to 85% of the critiques people like to give that movie to the passing of Chadwick Boseman. Because, like, all these critiques have been like this movie starting off with the fact that Shuri becomes the main character. No one anticipated that we were going to lose one of the most beloved superhero movie icons that was only in essentially 3 movies. No one expected us to lose him during the pandemic. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That changes everything. So, half those critiques that you piss pillars want to use, I don't give a damn about, because that is not the fault of the filmmakers. And yes, they had a choice to recast and move on, but like, culturally, I don't think that's the right choice. I always agreed with the choice of not recasting him, at least for that next movie. Let us mourn him and mourn that. Let the culture actually mourn. Now, if you want to recast him in the future, multiverse shenanigans, I was okay with that, because I was like, you know what? We have the multiverse. The next actor can come in. He's essentially a different T'Challa. It makes sense already. Y'all can write that. Now, when they said we're not going to recast him ever, I don't know about all that. But at least for that second movie, allow everyone to mourn with him, because he became an icon of not just being a Black Panther, but of Black culture. He was an icon. Let us mourn him properly, and I'm glad they did and gave us a very good movie to go with it. Like, which again is a story about dealing with grief. So it's like these movies have like. I just think we just need to have a better conversation about media and movie literacy and actually breaking down what makes a movie good or not. Because we got all these freaking Emmy movies that are basically blue shaded, dark stories about some guy coming back from war that has nothing interesting to say, and they get nominated for Emmys left and right. So like, that's fair. Like, I just want us to have a bigger discussion. Like, I get it. Superhero movies, we've been dealing with them for like 20 years. Like, I get it. Marvel probably going to lose a little bit of the fuzz, but let's not down a good story when a good story shows up. Not every Marvel movie needs to be freaking Endgame or Infinity War, but they're not all going to be freaking Thor: The Dark World either. They're going to range somewhere in the middle. Let's have a real conversation and celebrate the movies for what they are, rather than say just another Marvel movie. It's gonna be bad. MCU, all that bullshit these piss pillars want to say. Like, movies and art does not work that way.
Agree. We do need to. I will say with my last point, with the amount of money behind Marvel, i.e. Disney, like, y'all need to hire better writers, period, point blank. Like, that's my main thing. Because when you have a situation with the second Black Panther, not the second, I'm sorry, Wakanda Forever.
That's the second one, yeah.
That is the second one, okay. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I'm confusing Civil War, my bad, where he was, yeah. Seeing this thing become a trend in media where they often do have a lot of women leads in it. I will be honest and transparent. This whole thing to where women can get stabbed through the stomach and just punch through that shit is crazy to me. It's crazy to me. I grew up seeing Qui-Gon Jinn from Star Wars get stabbed through the chest by Darth Maul, and old boy died. That was Liam fucking Neeson, y'all. That's Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson got stabbed through the stomach once. One time. And he was, it's over. Train the boy, Obi-Wan. Wait, why is Liam Neeson dying? Shuri got ran through with a spear. Pinned to a rock. She had to break the spear off and force herself off the... I'm not saying she should have died. Nobody's saying after Chadwick Boseman, you see what I'm saying, passed, and his character passed, that you should kill the person who backed him up. Just don't let her get stabbed through the stomach. Like, can we do something like that? I mean, like just write better. You can put your hero in grave danger without necessarily having them defy death whenever you see fit. I'm saying it's a multi-billion-dollar company. You can write a little bit better than these people doing TikToks, like skits and shit like that. And if you can't, hire the TikTok people at this point.
So my thing about it is, I think, particularly, I've had conversations about that scene before already. I think, and not to get too long, because we've been at this for almost 2 hours. So to quickly wrap this up, for me, I think the issue was all of the critiques of the first Black Panther movie, where again, all the piss was like, there's no real stakes, no one really gets hurt until Killmonger dies. Like that nonsense that people were saying, which I fundamentally agree with you that there are better ways to show your character in grave danger. I just think that particular scene, I've always had this reaction, is that it's a reaction to people complaining about there was no danger or no stakes in the first one, which you don't need to get hurt to have stakes in a movie when, you know, the most technologically powerful planet in the world is about to go World War III on everybody else. I'm pretty sure those are stakes, but albeit, I just think I agree. There definitely needs to be better writing in places. I'm not going to say everything's bad because it just functionally isn't. But there needs to be more consistency in some of the writing. Not even the writing, the choices they make for certain things. Like you said, sure, you didn't have to get run through with a thing or a spear. Maybe she just gets pinned to the ship instead and has to figure out a way to get around the ship and like blow him up or whatever.
You get pinned somewhere by your shoulder, like
the shoulder, the leg.
Yeah, like it's just one of those things where it's like you got to figure it out. But what I will say is that to be 100% fair, Wakanda Forever 2 came out in... I said Wakanda Forever. Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever came out in 2022. In a similar vein, we have John Wick taking every injury known to man, and that man's walking through and no one said a word. So, I mean, this is where I'm like, if we're going to call a spade, we got to call it a spade. So, like, I think we have to judge movies individually. And then if we have a gripe with something, have the actual literacy to follow up that gripe. And again, I'm not even trying to say your argument's wrong because I fundamentally don't. But if I'm just going top level, surface deep, and we're not diving into it, John Wick got shot in the shoulder, took a thing to like, because by that point, I think either two or three of the movies came out by 2022. So like that man got thrown down a building, shot in the shoulder, took a couple in the leg, like, and he's not even a superhero. He's supposed to be a regular dude.
So, to be fair, I will make the argument for John Wick that by the time we got to that same time of like 2022, 2023, there have been so many movies that went from he's gone through like a shot or two to, okay, he's basically effectively a god at this point. You know,
exactly.
Like, they played him up to that point where, like, nothing short of, oh, hey, you've blown up half of his body, it's really going to stop him at this point.
That's fundamentally my point. Like, I don't like for the universe you created your story in. As long as it makes sense for your universe, I'm not tripping. That's why, like, at the end of the day, that scene doesn't bug me as much as it did a lot of people. Because she's supposed to be a superhuman. Like, no one had a problem with a regular guy. Like doing all this, like I know John Wick 3 had come out after. I think that was like 2023, but like this man in John Wick 3 starts off taking a couple of the shoulder, pops a couple pills, and then rides on a horse across a place, does this, fights people through. No. And then gets halfway through the movie, gets thrown off a building. Like,
I'm gonna be honest. His shit like borders on hilarity to me because of that. And because Keanu Reeves knows how to sell, like, I'm injured, but I'm not backing down. Like, even when he gets, like, hit, it's like he'll have a limp for a little bit, even in the fighting choreography, until he kind of gets it back, and it's like, okay, so he's back at square one. And to be fair, his whole outfit is Kevlar.
Yeah.
Like, even, like, where he's getting shot at close range, he pulls the jacket up and is shooting, like, so it's like, okay, so continuity wise, they do a little bit better job. Where it's like
that is
things.
And that again, that's all my point. Yeah. I don't necessarily think it's the writing. I think it's the choices they make to show that. Like, again, maybe they should have done a scene where like she gets like, or maybe they should have done an insert where she gets nailed when she pulls herself out and then clips it. Maybe it should have done like a wide pan the other direction to show that it's partially healing, but she's still fucked up. Just add that continuity. Yeah, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not necessarily the writing. Sometimes it's just their choices, whether they just move too fast or they just don't show something. Because The same thing happened in No Way Home with Spider-Man. He got jacked up by the Green Goblin, shanked or whatever. He yeets it out, stumbles a little bit, he like slightly heals up, and then starts wailing on him. Like, nothing's different there. So, like, this is my point. Like, unfortunately, a piss puller would take what you said and try to run with it, not saying what you actually said. And this goes back to literacy. So, before I wrap up, because this can go on for hours, before I wrap up and we move on to essentially ending this episode, any last thoughts? What y'all think?
Well, I think we did a good one today.
I think what I will say lastly, where it comes to consistency and writing well across the board, I feel like my favorite outing when it comes to Marvel, when it comes to that, was X-Men 97. I thought that was fantastic, for real. And then just showing what happened. Like, there was this line, long story short, they had killed Professor Xavier, people were dying, and Rogue was essentially trying to hunt this person down. And she went to like this military facility. The military people were like, she can't get in here. This place can stop like a nuclear bomb. They were like, she can't do it. She just took the roof off the place, went in, grabbed the commander up. And he was like, I thought you guys were supposed to be the good ones. She said, you killed all the good ones. All you have left is me. Like, that through writing to where like it built up to that, and Magneto's still trying to be the good guy for Xavier's legacy, but he will mess you up. Like, just this level of like, this is not the X-Men that you thought it was. Like, this is apocalyptic levels. Like, we're either going to become extinct or we're going to piss off a couple of people and hurt y'all. I like that. I think that was excellent writing. Whoever was on that team, put them on the movies. Somebody's movie in Marvel.
Yes.
Somewhere.
Well, on that note, everybody, I'll just wrap things up with the quote of the night, which, again, I think just kind of encapsulates pretty much everything that we talked about here today. So, this is actually from the great Maya Angelou. The idea is to write it so people hear it and it slides through the brain and goes to the heart. And on that note, I've been your boy John, and with my two co-hosts,
This Cal.
Dev.
Peace.